What a gigantic week to remember for Marvel Cinematic Universe, with Deadpool now officially in the universe alongside his backbone X-Men himself, Wolverine. Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds returns with this chemistry dynamic duo of the X-Men superhero Marvel Cinematic Universe for the ages. We're going to dive in to more of the review, spoiler-free, on this podcast.
I scream, you scream for movies, and that's the way we do it.
What is going on, movie fans? Welcome to I Screen. You scream for number 4 movies. I'm Danny Escamilaggi. Let's get started. Before we do get started, subscribe to the podcast. Follow my social medias in the description below. And right now, I'm sounding a little bit off. It's because I'm happy as hell to have this man back on. And not only that, but this is a weekend to remember for Marvel in the cinematic universe. We got Deadpool back, and then Wolverine is back together. So from my last episode, I was supposed to have David Thompson on, but unfortunately he went to Comic-Con. So I have to bring in a replacement who hasn't been on since The Flash last year. And I feel like right now, this is way more deserving than The Flash at this point. But everybody...
Has it been that long?
It's been that long.
Oh,
Bach, welcome back to the show, man.
It's great to be back.
All right. So, let's get started real quick. Now, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or, the MCU, has been on a bumpy road since No Way Home after that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking that forward, we did got some, good movies at this point, but then, the multiverse saga hasn't been just hype as enough as ever. And so we always keep our expectations low until we get these Avengers movies, which won't come out till a couple years later. But this is a film I think is meant to be what multiverse is all about. But I know Doctor Strange too had that, but then it wasn't the movie we all thought it was.
Not
at
all.
Right now, I think Deadpool and Wolverine is meant to be this movie we all want it to be. So this is, to me, let's just get started with this review thought. I think this is probably the best films we had since No Way Home, and it just feels the hype to the max. Because at this point, this is what the multiverse stuffers really should be all on, and that's why I always like to see all these crazy cameos. And by the way, we're keeping it spoil-free for this episode. But
spoil-free?
Yeah.
Okay.
But this is just wow. But not only that, but if we can focus on the Deadpool stuff, the Deadpool movies just keep getting crazy hype, crazy awesome. And nothing changes to what Deadpool is. And finally, to the point matter, Disney, which we'll go over in a second, has finally committed this territorial R-rated movie. And I feel like this is why we finally need one. For Disney to finally put their big boy pants on, as I always will say, to commit this serious Deadpool in this MCU territory. And we could have done so. They could have done that without Kevin Feige. He understands what people want. So if we're speaking on in my experience, for my thought, this is a crowd-pleasing Marvel cinematic achievement since No Way Home. So, Ak, what do you think of this movie overall?
Okay, first of all, let's just go and talk about Deadpool itself. I'm going to go ahead and say that this is the best trilogy technically now in the MCU, right?
Right.
That's what I think. I think this movie is better than the last two, and this is not just like a honeymoon phase. That's it. I've slept on it. It's been a few days. I think it's the best film, and I've watched the other two 100 times. It had everything. It had the humor. It had the catchy music, which I can't stop singing. Bye bye bye.
Bye bye bye.
and
Me too.
Like a prayer. I can't stop singing it. It had the action, and it had I can't even I want to get more into more detail, but we can do that later. But overall, no, I rate this movie 4.5 out of 5. It was amazing, and I'm gonna watch it again this week.
Oh, this week.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I was thinking about it, but I'm still gonna wait for Borderlands at this point, or maybe I should just I don't know. But like I said, if you love it, go see it again. Because why not? Why not spend a little box office support for this movie? Which we'll get to at the end of this episode. But like you said, I want to go over to the Deadpool trilogy. This is by far, like you said, the most successful in any kind of trilogies. We never had consistently. It's almost like the Planet of the Apes the franchise are consistent every time, but they always have some quality in terms of like what people expect. So if we're comparing that to the Planet of the Apes, I think Deadpool is by far the most successful by any means. Like you said, the action gets awesome, the humor's there every time. Ryan Reynolds is like the guy of Deadpool all over. This is where the butts in the seats comes from for
Yep.
that. So a lot of greatness to Deadpool. And look, I had to see the previous films. Of course, I want to compare, but somehow they just get better. And
Every
I love
time.
the third film. A lot out of the trilogy.
I
Just to
rank them.
speak-
I rank them the third, second, and first. First trilogy I've ever seen, where it goes 3, 2, then 1.
Me too. That's
know
what I'm
what?
doing as well.
You know what? Maybe not the first trilogy. Since you mentioned Planet of the Apes, maybe I don't know. But that's a whole different conversation for later.
It's a different conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm just comparing because there's no trilogies that's been like consistently awesome.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. So if anything, Deadpool is by far the fewest trilogies that's like a giant success
Yep.
into 20th centuries in Marvel's hands and now Disney's hands. So, let's talk about the performances. Like I said, Ryan Reynolds keeps hitting out of the park. Then you got Hugh Jackman, most special since
Yep.
Logan, and we all thought Logan and Hugh Jackman was done with Wolverine until what the Marvel Cinematic Universe is doing. I think this was a huge deal because people love Hugh Jackman all over. And at this point, any adults, older adults that appeal to him. The Great Showman is what the BO boys call him, and that's what they usually talk about. But The Great Showman was a sleeper hit, and Hugh Jackman was in that movie. So if anything, he came back for this role, and I think this is like a huge deal. I love it.
He crushed it.
And he crushed it. And overall, the dynamic chemistry between these two are like brotherlies. So if I had to say one thing on these two, I mean, they like steal the whole movie at this point. I mean, hell, I can almost bring up, man, I can't bring up anything else, but I think these two really stole the show of this movie. That's what Deadpool Wolverine is. And this could have been a collab in the X. I wanted to ask you, do you think this would have made sense if it was called Deadpool X Wolverine?
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing anyways. The X and the N.
Yeah, because look, the thing is, Godzilla and Kong had a collab X in the title. And from what the BO boys talked about, one of them was very like annoyed of why it's called and instead of like an X. X means collab, so I was thinking maybe it's right, maybe it's would have done like huge success numbers because the X is in the title, but still did hit. I just think an X could have made sense to it, but nothing wrong with the and. But
No,
I
think
I think Disney should like whatever they do to stuff in Marvel, they should just put an X in these titles. Well, go ahead. What were you saying?
I think the end works just fine. I think because it's a Deadpool movie, but it is both of them because I feel like it's not more lenient on Deadpool. It feels like it's a Deadpool and Wolverine. It feels like it's both of them. It gives you Deadpool's story, Wolverine's story, and then they merge them together. So I think it works with the and.
Gotcha. All right, I just want to ask to be sure, but first off, the action sequences I want to bring up are even bloodier than the previous two, which is why I mentioned this trilogy keeps consistently getting awesome.
Yep.
The violence and cinematography is like top notch. I think this is amazing. And at this point, I can't almost remember what's the goriest, but I think a lot of the stuff in this third one is more gorier than the other two. So what do you think of all the stuff?
I really enjoy it, and I think maybe the opening scene alone had more gory. It was more gory than any of the other movies. Maybe, well, not combined, because one was pretty gory, but two kind of leaned back from it a little bit because it was telling a different story.
Right.
But I mean, there was still plenty in there, like when Juggernaut ripped Deadpool in half. Like that's still gore. But this one was like extreme because there was a lot. He had to fight a lot of people. So much TVA.
Yeah. I thought that was awesome in that whole opening.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look
the
at
opening scene was awesome. It was one of the best I've ever seen. That's it.
I agree. Best Marvel openings for Deadpool, and I think it's the right step.
For sure, the best Marvel.
Let's bring up Disney real quick. They've been sleeping bad, but now they brought Deadpool to the MCU and to their kiddie territory. Like now, this is where fuck 20th century, say hello to Disneyland. Like this is now what people want. So I think this really delivers what Disney finally committed with Kevin
Yep.
Feige in the MCU. What do you think of this right now going on with Disney?
Like in general, how much more powerful they're getting.
Yeah, like
Like
with them putting an R-rated character into their
I
territory with this
I
now.
think that especially with the success on Deadpool opens up new gates to where now they're not worried about Blade. They're gonna R-rate it, you know.
For
And
sure.
any other movies that like if it's like on the edge, like should we give it a rated R, like or like what is the other one like TV-14 or whatever PG? They're gonna go the R way because they see how the ratings are amazing regardless. You know, like they can do that. Before I feel like they were kind of scared, like oh, can we put the rated R on it? Maybe the kids aren't gonna see it. It's not gonna do too good, you know. But this movie proves that what is it doing? 200 plus in the box office.
200 right now. Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll get to that in a sec. But
yeah. So I think that now they're not gonna be afraid to put an R rating on some of their movies.
like you said, Blade's going to be rated R. Kevin Feige just confirmed it. And I know it's been long overdue, but at this point, they should get a Blade out right away before the Avengers movies. And I mean fast, because it's going to fly fast before anyone knows it at this
May
point.
2026 is gonna be here in a second.
It's going to be here. Time flies. So, if anything, I'd say put it. Actually, it's scheduled for 2026 in February, if I remember. So
Wait, the Doomsday one?
the Doomsday one, yeah, which is not the title, by the way. Yeah.
That's May 2026.
Yeah. I'm trying to think when is Blade is scheduled now. It's like 2026.
I'm not even sure.
That Doomsday.
I'm not sure when that is.
Yeah. Too bad I forgot to bring the notes, but you know what? After we're doing live.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's all right. Anyways,
we're here for Deadpool and Wolverine anyways.
That's exactly. The fan service. Now, I just realized I went on your Letterboxd just to compare, and you rate down the Flash, which we saw last year.
Mm-hmm.
What made you not like this so much in compared to the fan service for Deadpool? If we're talking like what changed?
Well, the fan service wasn't too good in the Flash. If I'm gonna get into the Flash, you can just, some people can just watch the podcast from that one. But just quick, I know they had Keaton's Batman in there, but that wasn't enough for me because the story was so weak when it could have just been Flashpoint. And I just been thinking about it, and it was just so nothing made sense in it. It was so dumb. It was such a terrible movie. The CGI was god awful, and I don't even complain about CGI, but that was terrible. Everything looked ugly. The main villain was weak. All that. So that fan service wasn't enough for me to move past the plot. Seeing Keaton, and I don't like seeing Batman during the daytime. Sorry, I don't like it. I don't think it belongs. Compared to this movie, obviously we're spoiler free, but they speak for themselves. You know,
right?
The fan service is not unnecessary fan service. It's ones that like we wanted. It feels good. I'm not gonna say how many. I'm not gonna say who. Nothing. But they did their thing. They knew what we wanted, and they gave us everything and more. Even with I gotta talk in code here. You know that one scene. You know that one scene where Wolverine showed his claws. You know what I'm talking about without me saying it?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, and I know everything what the fans want. They just delivered. Marvel knows what they want, and I know DC is rebuilding back to its point with its new universe with James Gunn. But Feige, man, and Marvel,
I think with the last phase, was that phase 5, I think that they just had to put these movies out because they just had to put them out to further tell the story, even though they were all weak. So now we can move past the weak, and we can go into the next phase with the bad ones out the way and hopefully all good ones coming forward,
Yes. The fan service really spoke. Yeah, you're right. I loved everything they just put out. So much not to discuss, but the fan service is way better. And look, even me with back to the Flash before we move on. Towards the ending, I started to feel like, what the heck was that? And then I feel like whatever it ended. And it's like, yeah, I think about this movie overall every time, and I'm like, it's not a good movie because it was bad rumored after all that this was called the greatest superhero movie ever made, and it clearly is not. But I think Deadpool and Wolverine is the greatest superhero movie ever made, in just my opinion, and just probably the film Twitter's opinion. Because we're just talking what fan service. I mean, no, I'm just pointing out. I'm just anecdotally putting out, but film Twitter. You know, it's not the reality of this, but it doesn't speak for themselves. Tweets are ticks. But man, it does speak for itself. This is the sort of best comic book movie in a minute since Spider-Man. And I'm just saying that because this is a thrilling achievement for Marvel right now. So they got out of the weak stuff and now they go on to the strong stuff.
Yeah, there's a
We're
lot
getting
good.
more
There's a lot of
stuff,
good coming up.
Next year, you got Captain America, Thunderbolts. I'm very uncertain about Thunderbolts.
Yeah, me too. But we'll watch it though.
We'll watch it anyways. Yeah. We'll watch it. Fantastic Four, though. I think
very excited.
I'm excited for sure.
I'm a huge fan. Look, I never speak about it, but I grew up watching it all the time because I had the DVD. The 2000, like the original Fantastic Four, from what is that? 04, I think.
Yeah,
it's one of my favorites. It really is. I love everybody in there. I love the Thing. I love the Human Torch. I love Miss Fantastic. It was just so good to me, and I think it's very underrated. And I think that the costume designs and the characters and everything was so perfect. And I just think it's not spoken about enough. So that's why I'm really excited for the next one.
This is going to be a lot to talk about next year, and especially they will be in the Avengers movies as like spoken. So that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a great integration because they're also part of 20th Century as well. Fun fact.
Yeah.
So if anything, we can ignore 2015's Fantastic Four because that one is garbage. So they're not going to integrate anything out of that.
I forgot that was a movie.
That was a movie, and I always forget, but it is terrible. It's pretty bad. It's pretty awful. Let's see. Do you have any sort of weaknesses? I think we'll go on to the bad, a little weaknesses to the stuff because it's obviously not perfect. Of course not.
Yeah.
I do think the stories get a little weak overall in some capacity after the first one. So that's when I'm starting to feel like, so that's the second one, and it's starting to feel like it's getting stalled as like the fun goes on. So I just think there wasn't enough like exciting plots, but except most fan servers. What were you going to say, Ak?
I think that with the plot of this movie, I think that there's no MCU plot besides Infinity War and Endgame that is strong. I don't, and I think that's okay sometimes, right? So a movie like this, I didn't expect the plot to be insane. I knew what I was getting into, right? It's going to be a time travel kind of, something like that, right? I expected that, and that's completely okay because the characters are so good. The scenes are so nice. There's so much action. They give us exactly what we want to the point where the plot just has to be a plot. It doesn't have to be super strong, complex, nothing. Just give us what we want, be a Deadpool movie. And then that's it. That's about it for me. That's how I feel about it.
I have to agree with that too. The villain is sort of weak in my opinion, but I know this is like a good relation of this variant for So the anime I'm talking about is what? Nova? No, Cassandra Nova?
Yeah, Cassandra Nova.
As much as she was great in that movie, the actress, I still think it's another weak villain overall. Because like the last one, it had a strong villain, but the first Deadpool had a good villain. So, what do you have to say on like Cassandra Nova as like the villain in this movie?
Yeah, see, it's typical MCU format with the villain. I mean, anybody can just guess the kind of villain she is. Really, if you watch any MCU movies, you know exactly the kind of villain story she tells, and she is kind of weak. But I mean, that's all right. That's how I feel because the villain in this movie isn't really the villain. It's more time, right? And for Logan, it's more the villain is his own mind, right?
Right.
And that's the whole point of the movie. Same thing for Deadpool. It's their own thoughts and their own history and that kind of stuff is the real villain. But they just need somebody as a plot point. That's about it.
That's all right. All right. That's cool. Is there any? Oh yeah, I do have a big question, and because I think people are saying anecdotally, exaggeratingly on Twitter, film Twitter, tweets aren't ticks. Is Marvel back at like the capacity, and it doesn't restore like superhero fatigue and all for what people are talking about? For me, I'm gonna say no because it's got challenges next year. It's terms of demanding. I mean, is people willing to see the new Captain America? Is people willing to see Thunderbolts? But Fantastic Four, no question. I think people are excited.
Yeah.
So it's got a few challenges overall. And look, you got a few other superhero movies coming out that besides Joker, it isn't a superhero. It's like a comic book character,
Yeah.
psychological story. You got Venom, you got Craven, and then we're on to like more Marvel next year. So if we're speaking more superhero fatigue, if it restores with Deadpool, I don't think it restores anything at this point. It's got challenges because Madam Web left a very bad benchmark. Quantum Mania, the Marvels, it's not that terrible, but in that terms of fatigue, people weren't invested to more
Yeah,
superhero
we
stuff.
can't we can't call him back yet, just off one movie, but it's leaning that way. You know, it's
Yeah.
leaning until we're back, especially with that Comic-Con thing yesterday, right? And yeah, especially with that, we're leaning towards we're back. So it all
That's
depends
right.
on Brave and the Bold, or whatever it's called now, New World Order. I'm
The
sorry, I don't
World Brave New Order, I think that's
yeah,
what it's
I don't
called.
know what it's called anymore. They changed the name 5 times. I think that'll be a good movie. And then Thunderbolts, I don't know. I think it's not going to be too good. I think it's going to be one of those where people say, "Oh, this movie's overhated. It's overhated," but nobody likes it. You know, that's what
Right.
I'm thinking.
Yeah. All right. But yeah, I just think we got challenges to see where the superhero genre is going to be at. But Deadpool into the MCU, and I guess Wolverine as well at this point is a great start to put him in this cinematic universe. Now that Disney owns 20th Century, so it's now
Yep.
a partnership at this point. Which great choice, by the way. I'm not judging that. So we both agreed this is a great step. So, like you said, Comic-Con, they're leaning towards its back. We'll have to see where challenges hurdle. Especially we got Blade, and we're still missing what's going on with this whole movie. It's almost like at this point where we're probably not going to get a Blade movie of anything at this point. So we shall see. Before we get off, because I do want to keep this under a half hour, box office. Now, I know you're not a BO guy. And look, I think you understood well that this is important for this movie to be. So at this opening weekend, before we even talk the results, you predicted 219. I predict 230. I had this wrong, but I predicted on Twitter 233.3 or 4.
Yeah.
233. So with this huge opening, this made 205 million. Now, that's sort of what people didn't expect, but it's still over 200. And I think for an R-rated movie, which is record-breaking,
Yeah,
it's a big deal. And it's good for what it is. So it wasn't going to make Endgame. It wasn't going to make No Way Home. It wasn't going to make Infinity War. Or it wasn't going to make Star Wars. It was just going to make 200 the way it is. But I thought maybe it goes over 220 plus. But 205 is nothing to sneeze at. So I think it's a gigantic reach of milestone, especially for rated R. I don't see Joker 2 reaching that point.
No,
and I
of
don't
course
see
not.
any other... I don't see Blade reaching that ever. Of course not. So I think for what it is, it's pretty awesome. I mean, lots of fans shows up. I'm guessing adults shows up. I don't have the demo age in my thing right now, but it's a lot of 18 and 34s, I can tell, including us. And I can tell over 35s because of Hugh Jackman, if the reports are right. But Evan's got a strong cinema score. It's got an A, like the previous Deadpool movies. So legs are going to be huge. But I'm expecting the weeks to drop big because it's heavy spoiler. But in quality-wise, in terms of that, how Deadpool keeps consistently strong, I think it's going to leg out August. Like, it's just a huge thing. I think people will see the wave of that. And what did you think of this record-achieving number, my boy?
I think the number is perfect. I think that nobody should ever try to... Nobody can say... I think I seen it was like eighth... It was like the 8th highest grossing rated R film, something like that.
It's the 8th highest grossing opener of all time.
Yeah,
sure.
That's amazing. That's what I expected from this movie. I didn't expect it to be number 1. I expected it to do crazy numbers, and it did. It really did.
Something to remember. We'll see where the second weekend holds, but I think it's gonna have another strong weekend to hold on. And in August, like I said, it's mostly the dumpster fire of movies, but chances are I think it's just going to play strong. Probably gain number 1 throughout the entire week of August, depending how impactful this movie is. I mean, it's just impacted 200, and the legs and the word of mouth is strong. So if anything, Deadpool's going to really hang on and cling on to this point, especially the genres. But I want to bring up quickly Twisters. It dropped number 2, down 56%, and it made 35 million second weekend. Great hold, considering we all thought Deadpool was gonna suck, completely annihilated. Especially the PLS for that movie is lost.
Yeah.
But it's great hold. So I'm guessing with this word of mouth it got, and with Glenn Powell, going to next month, it's gonna hold strong. And I know you like Twisters for sure. So how did you what did you think of this second weekend hold? It just made 35, down 56%.
I think it's doing much more than people thought it would do to begin with. So I think that's good on its own. And especially with this movie coming out, people are still going to see Twisters. I mean, it is the Glenn Powell effect. You know, the girls, they love him. Even the guys.
That's right.
Me right here. I love
Me
Glenn
right
Powell.
here. Yeah. Top Gun.
Yeah, we love Glenn Powell. So, I mean, he's enough of a movie star to get people to go want to watch his movies. So, yeah.
That's right. All right. But man, that's like everything. But this is spoil free, guys. So this is like a technical weird episode to even talk about, but spoil free. I want to keep this fresh because people that haven't seen it can go see it. But we want to tell you, go see it if you had enough. If you're one of those people who had enough of Marvel or the superhero, Deadpool doesn't waste your time.
It's completely worth the watch.
And if you're at this point off school, even the kids, go see it before you end your summer off, because I think August is another good movie month for Deadpool to keep going, and definitely one of those books of the year for sure. All right. Before we get off, Ak, what are you looking forward to next month as far as like movies? Because I won't have you on until any point, but if anything, I want to thank you for coming on. What are you looking forward to? Of course, my
pleasure. Danny, I'd be a liar if I told you I know what's coming out in August. Wait, except actually Trap. I know Trap.
Okay.
Maybe I'll see that. But other than that, I'm not even sure what's coming out. I haven't looked into it. I kind of just go by the weeks and I see what comes out during the week. And then if I like something, I'll go watch it.
I'll tell this to people listening and you, of course. So like you said, Trap is next week. It kicks off August. You also got Harold and the Purple Crayon. Looks a mess. Looks terrible, by the way. I don't even want to talk about it.
No, I'm not watching that. Yeah.
August 9th, you got Ryan Reynolds' wife in Ends With Us. And I'm telling you, do not sleep on this.
But that's based on the book.
It's based on the book, and its pre-sales are wild.
Because the girls.
Wild. Yes.
Yeah.
And the fans, I mean, this is another Where the Crawdads Sing kind of thing. It's based on a novel, and it was a giant hit. So It Ends With Us is going to be gigantic, possibly for Blake Lively. This is a huge deal. Definitely one of those films to look out. And I'm not saying you should watch it, but watch out if you got a girlfriend, she wants to see it, blah blah blah. Just put this out. The 9th of August coming out, and I don't think it's going to do just great for how bad the buzz is. Borderlands. Look, I don't want to ramble this on. It's not going to possibly do gigantic. I don't think it's willing to anymore. So that's coming out, and I'm excited for that. But you know what? I don't think I'm excited for how they're going to bring this material anymore. I don't think it's worth noting. This is probably going to be terrible. August 16th, Alien Romulus. I'm actually excited for that. And
dude, I heard about that one.
It's gonna be amazing. This is one of those movies I think it's gonna be a sleeper kind. It's horror. It's Alien. It's a franchise I think people haven't been walked away, and it looked very good. August 23rd is The Crow. It's a remake based on Brandon Lee's. I think that doesn't look too impressive either. Just
maybe I'll see it. We'll see. Probably not though.
And then August 31st was originally Craven, so that got moved. So if anything, I did explain the entire slate of August. So you got Trap, Harold, It Ends With Us, Borderlands, Alien, and Crow. So those are the movies coming out next month, and possibly those are all I got to remember. So if anything, August is likely going to be another dumpster, but some hits are going to be revivable. So we'll see. But good luck with August. I hope you enjoy whatever's coming out.
Yep, you too.
Where can the listeners check you out?
Honestly, nowadays you can go to my TikTok at Ak or my Twitter at Oxworld, like right here, and then that's about it for me.
And is it okay if I drop your Letterboxd? Because you do have a Letterboxd. Oh, of course, I've been dropping my own Letterboxd, and I had Josh on my last episode for Twisters. I also dropped his Letterboxd for people to check out. So
go ahead, drop that.
course. Before you do get off, I meant to let me just end this off. But everybody, thank you for tuning in and subscribe to the podcast. Whatever you're listening on, leave a 5-star review on Apple. It helps listeners find the show. If you're watching this through YouTube, or if you're just listening to the podcast, you're not getting the whole story. Subscribe to the YouTube. You'll get to see my face, and you'll get to see my boy's face, Ak, right there, with his nice T-shirt and his nice garage. I mean, guys, the YouTube channel is where it's at. Subscribe there right now if you haven't. My social media platforms will be in the description below, Twitter and TikTok. I'll be posting video clips and whatnot for each episode I drop, so expect to look out for those video clips and whatnot. And yeah, that's about it. This is Danny Escamilade signing off of this episode. Until then, stay screaming for the movies, and I'll see you guys in the next review. Peace.